$3 billion. First 2+ bill, then a few hundred mil more, then billions more. It's so incredible. And here is this demonic pig sitting up there acting non-threatening like Mr. Magoo when he is a crime lord going, gee, I want to pay more taxes. Just raise taxes, because he knows he's exempt from them, and even the Washington Post admits that, and he's the biggest beneficiary. Now, that said, I'm going to come back and go to your phone calls, but then later I'm getting into this, because some people, I got emails, I saw text, I saw comments on YouTube, I saw comments on our article, IRS travel ban revoking citizenship by stealth, and people are like, how does that revoke citizenship? You cannot, under federal court rulings, the Constitution, and no other government does this but Russia, by the way, take someone's passport extrajudicially without a conviction. You cannot take someone's citizenship, and the passport is the right of a citizen to travel in and out of the country. We are the country. This is an ancient right going back to Greece, going back to Rome, going back to city-states, that you have passage into the city, into the country. You pay taxes because you're paying for the defense for the walls of your city or of your country. You have rights that the slaves don't. Oh, in all those cultures, they had slaves. Slaves do not have right of passage. The passport is the proof that you're a free man in the slave system, part of the empire. The bankers are saying, you're not part of America anymore. You are our slaves, our chattel. By the way, one more point, and I'm going to your calls before I get into this top story, IRS travel ban revoking citizenship by stealth, and how it ties into Paul Watson's latest article at Infowars.com. IRS to revoke passports of 30,000 U.S. troops. You heard that right. But, of course, they might be given selective waivers. The TSA is now announcing they'll decide who gets to get waived from the crotch grope. The point here is that I've seen a lot of people comment that, well, already states request that the federal government not issue you a passport or cancel it if you owe child support. You can't strip somebody of their absolute right. But, of course, it started with the children. Well, it's for the children, and now it's for the Federal Reserve. And it's going to be, you can't have a job, you can't have a car, you can't travel. You say, well, you'll just drive illegally. Well, now they've got license plate readers, and in real time know if you're even up on your insurance. The future is going to be a hellish system. The economy is meant to be predatory now. We are meant to go into a cannibalistic phase politically, economically, where we implode. You think 2 million in prisons 10 years ago, 4 years ago, 4.5 million, now 7.1. They estimate by the next decade it'll be more than 15 million in prison. More prisoners than China. This is the economy. And then the people come out of the jails not afraid to commit crime, not afraid to rape and rob. They're colleges of crime. America is under a scientific attack. There's the New York Times. U.S. prison population dwarfs that of other nations. The United States has less than 5% of the world's population, but it has almost a quarter of the world's prisoners. All right, let's go to your phone calls. David, Tony, Cameron, Christopher, Jeff, Wally. David in Florida, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hi, Alex. I really love your show a lot. I was wondering if you'd seen the study a month or two ago that came out in the news that 20% of the population, 25% of women are now on psychotropic drugs. I was stunned at how high the number is now. Yes,
and New Freedom Initiative, remember 6 years ago, that leaked out because one of the board members exposed it. It was meetings with the White House, the regulators, and Big Pharma, and they said the goal was within, I forget, was it 10 years? I don't remember the exact number. They wanted 50% of school kids, of children, on psychotropics. And back then they had about 10%, and now I was reading it's over 20 for kids, over 20 for women. And this is the way they roll, yeah.
Right. In my opinion, what I think is there's a lot of fascinating subjects you discuss, like the Fed and TSA and the upcoming police state. I think this is the number one issue, and the reason why is because having everybody drugged out and apathetically in a zombie state, like walking in front of the cars, as you said a few weeks ago, this allows them to roll in all the other programs.
Sure, it is. We've done reports on it and shown the scientific reports, the universities. Since TV became ubiquitous across the board everywhere in the 50s, brainwaves have lowered. Brainwaves, IQs, and you can just pull up, every week now it's a study, computers rewiring children's brains, lowering IQs. You can also, guys, just type in iPads causing autism. And it literally is. The language has been reduced, where people don't have very many words anymore. Their vocabulary is lower. Advertising agencies are putting out reports saying dumb it down to a third grade level for adults now. And it's just all about being programmed into a zombie state. And so people are either awakening to a higher level or they're being dumbed down. And yes, sir, the average person, you say, people like, it's like they're in a trance. It's not like they are in a near dream state. And they have pre-programmed responses. It's like black helicopters just terrorized Chicago. But 15 years ago, they would just say it didn't exist, you were insane, even if they covertly leased a building and blow it up. Local news, would, because I've been to these, would say, it does not exist, Alex Jones is bad. And I'd go, here's footage of it. They'd go, does not exist. See, they were already in a trance. And you're like, but I have footage. I talked to the police chief. They tried to pay him off. The San Antonio News was like, does not exist. The Austin American Statesman said, Jones is insane. It's like the New York Times just 4 years ago said, Bilderberg doesn't exist, Jones is hallucinating. You understand? This is total mind control. So your conscience, and it's like, well, it doesn't make any sense because you're awake. But to a zombie, it's like a magician who hypnotizes somebody and they can't see the audience anymore. They are in a dream state. Stay there. I want to give you another comment because I ran over you. More calls coming up. This is an important subject. Black helicopters hit Chicago, but they do not exist. Remember that. Corruption of your thoughts. You know, like I said, destruction of your soul. And documented years ago, I have been inside the University of Texas Psychology building and was shown around. It's got a lot of classified projects going on in it. And they've got cameras into classified projects hooked into computer systems. This is like a decade ago or more now. This is just about a decade ago. Hooked into all the different laboratories spread out around Austin in the hill country. And most of it is just monkeys chained down with their wires in their brains with TV screens flickering different rates at them, testing how to lower their brainwaves and put them into a trance. And then they have students come in and hook them up to the EKG systems and all these electrodes on their heads and just practice. They'll have whole programs on just how to stimulate a woman sexually. I was shown one DARPA program with just flicker rates. So they send a flicker wave over through the television. And then they've got other programs that they found, well, if you sexually stimulate and then hit them with this other rate and then show them something else, you can really imprint the knowledge on them. And by knowledge, the brainwashing. And my point is that was just one example. And it's just all the universities, all the complexes dedicated to wrecking your mind and hurting you and murdering you and your family. I just lay it right out there for you. And again, we're all just comfortable. 10,000 percentage point pediatric cancer cases, multi-thousand point increases, breast cancer, neurological disorders, everything, death, destruction, pain, sickness, cancer Barbie, it's fun, everybody gets it. It's like getting a cold now. And it's just all fun to be murdered, soft-killed. And the professors, I mean, when I was there 10 years ago, I was given like a 4-hour tour. It was amazing, late at night. Oh, you're not supposed to see this. Oh, look at that. What do you think of that? Oh, you didn't see that. Come in here. DARPA, 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 Department of Defense, Air Force, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Every sector would have on the door what was funding it. And everything was about mind control on one floor. Go to another area, it's all about cameras that scan your facial expressions to tell what products you're looking and that track your eyes. And the cameras are hidden when you go into the smart stores. Now, of course, that's been put in everywhere. It is just total, absolute savage control. And that's why you talk to the average adult, there's no way to even reach them or get through to them. They're just not there. These are zombies. And men tune into their sports shows and they talk about the coach. I think he's underrated. I agree with you. What about this great player? Let's get a call. And you hear the prideful player call in. Yeah, I'm doing good. The team's doing great. We're getting ready for this Sunday. All right, great. And it's all this fake male stuff. And these are just people inserted into the matrix, programmed through their eyes, through their ears, interfaced with the computers, and they're gone and they ain't coming back. And the women are all prancing around, enjoying themselves. And, oh, girlfriend, you got cancer at 32. I'm so sorry for you. Oh, we're all going to go to her funeral. It's so sad. You go to get your hair cut, and you hear the women all around you. Yeah, my friend Becky, she just died, 37. Oh, yeah, well, my boyfriend's got cancer. Oh, really? My boyfriend just died last year of it. He was 24. Oh, yeah. And then you go to a restaurant, and there's mentally retarded children and everywhere, and just autistic, just total savage death. Everybody's just, la, 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 murder me, murder me, murder me. I'm sorry. I said I'd go to your calls. And I just sit here and watch it. And the general public is just victims. I can't even get mad at them anymore. They were hit by hardcore scientific evil. Troops are dying of DU poisoning, don't get medical treatment. But then there's all this sticky, sweet stuff about loving the troops and get money for their kids so they can go to college, and all the country music stars raising money for the troops because they're the best people we got. Meanwhile, you only care about the troops, though, when you're told to on specific things. It's all half an inch deep, mile wide. All hat, no cattle. Okay, I'm going to go back to the calls here. And people are like, hey, they've been taking passports for about 10 years if you owe child support, so it's all right. It's kind of like saying, we've had black slaves in the Americas for 250 years. You can't get rid of it now. I mean, the Aztecs were chopping people's hearts out every day for thousands of years under the Mayan culture before them. I mean, why not bring it back? They did it before. I mean, Jeffrey Dahmer grabbed 13-year-olds off the street and tortured them to death. Why not just it's been... I love this idea that, we've had the IRS and the private Federal Reserve running things for 98 years or 99 years since 1913. I mean, what's wrong with it? It's all about acclimating you. There's no world government. There's no urban warfare black helicopters. I mean, I sat there with a statesman writer who'd been the former employee high level of the DPS and DPS intelligence. And I'm in the interview, and he's going, so you believe there are these black helicopters? And I went, well, I have interviews with the police chiefs. They try to pay them off. Thomas Sanchez, urban warfare drills. And he went, you believe they exist? And I went, well, they do exist. They're doing urban warfare drills to acclimate us. It's part of this presidential decision directive to get us ready for martial law. This is like 14 years ago. And then they just went with the statesman. Jones believes they exist. And the guy was sitting there looking at me just with cold mercenary behavior. He was an old guy. In fact, his name's out there on the paper. It's actually hanging on the wall. We've got it framed because it's so funny. In fact, will you guys run me that black helicopter story in? It's hanging on the wall right there. I'll show it to the TV viewers. Tim, here at our office, dug through a bunch of the old boxes and found all these news clippings and framed them. It's kind of cool to actually have stuff on the walls. I'm always too busy to even think about that. And it's the one about preaching the conspiracy gospel on a station near you. That's the headline on it, guys. It's right there. Now... And he just sat there looking at me. And he had that secure feeling, He works for the system. And the public is going to get to laugh at me. It's going to be funny. And they're all going to get to feel official and powerful and laugh at me. And then when the urban... because he knows he's exempt from them, and even the Washington Post admits that, and he's the biggest beneficiary. Now, that said, I'm going to come back and go to your phone calls, but then later I'm getting into this because some people I got emails, I saw text, I saw comments on YouTube, I saw comments on our article, IRS travel ban revoking citizenship by stealth. And people, you have rights that the slaves don't. Oh, in all those cultures, they had slaves. Slaves do not have right of passage. The passport is the proof that you're a free man in the slave system, part of the empire. The bankers are saying, you're not part of America anymore. You are. Like, how does that revoke citizenship? You cannot, under federal court rulings, the Constitution, and no other government does this but Russia, by the way, take someone's passport extrajudicially without a conviction. You cannot take someone's citizenship, and the passport is the right of a citizen to travel in and out of the country. We are the country. This is an ancient right going back to Greece, going back to Rome, going back to city-states, that you have passage into the city, into the country. You pay taxes because you're paying for the defense for the walls of your city or of your country. $3 billion. First $2+ bill, then a few $100 million more, then billions more. It's so incredible. And here is this demonic pig sitting up there acting non-threatening like Mr. Magoo when he is a crime lord going, gee, I want to pay more taxes. Just raise taxes.